Hey everyone, it's Sarah with Courageous Color, and today I want to show you how to paint a Christmas tree. The first thing you'll want to do is get blue and black and white paint on a palette or a plate or whatever you use to hold your paint. Then you'll mix together some blue and black, making a nice night sky color. If you want, you can use a pencil to make a triangle shape in the middle of your canvas. Right here I'm using an 11 by 14 canvas panel. You can use stretch canvas if you'd like. And I'm going to leave a triangle shape in the middle without paint on it because that is where our Christmas tree is going to go. So you can either have that in your mind or you can sketch it on there with a pencil and then paint over top of it. So you'll want to bring this sky color all the way down to your horizon line, wherever you want that to be. And then we're going to make snow at the bottom. This one that I'm doing is going to be an outside Christmas tree. You could absolutely paint this tree inside of a house or somewhere else on a painting, but I'm going to do one outside. Now I'm making little X's and filling in the space with the black and the blue. And depending on the level of thickness of your acrylic paint, you may have to sort of work it into your canvas. So make sure you don't have any white spots. And then, like I said, bring it all the way down to the horizon line. Now, if you wanted, you could do your background in completely black color, or you could, make a value of blue, whatever value of blue that you want. So if you wanted it to be daytime, you would use a bright blue or mix it with some white. Maybe paint some clouds in the background. For me, I want it to be nighttime, so the tree really sticks out. So here I'm drawing my horizon line. And again, you can sketch where you want that line to be from the beginning, or you could just make a big decision when you get down to that spot and bring it right over and paint it, a little bit of white and a little bit of blue, and just try to paint the straightest line across that you can make. Now, in my mind, snow is not just perfectly white. Especially at nighttime, it sort of shines and reflects. So I'm going to use some white and some blue together with that sky color. And I'm just going to bring it horizontally across the painting. And I'm going to keep going right across so that it looks like freshly laid snow. Okay, so this is looking a little bit dark for me for white. So I'm going to keep layering the white until I really like the shade of snow that I put down. And you can decide how white or blue or, whether you want to put grass at the bottom. You have complete creative control. And so you can just keep swiping it over. You definitely want to make sure that you keep on using these horizontal motions and brush strokes for the snow because that's going to make it look really nice. Now, while the paint is wet, you can continue to work with it and use that horizontal motion to make sure that the lines aren't going diagonal and make sure that you're picking up the amount of blue that you want, that your snow is the right shade of white just for you. And then when you like that, you can go ahead, and I guess I could have did this before, but I'm going to go ahead and blend the black and blue area of the night sky as well because I don't want it to stay sort of all jagged looking the way it is. Okay, so I'm just going to blend in from the sides to try to smooth out the blue and black area while this paint is still wet. And also I'm coming in from the sides with a big flat sort of background brush. I think it's about 2 inches wide. And I don't want to get any of that paint in the triangle area in the middle because that's where I want to put my tree. And for the sake of time, if I leave that area blank, then I won't have to wait for the sky to dry to put the tree over it. I can just start putting the tree right in there. And as you're blending, you may have to add a little more paint, or you may notice that the colors blended a different way that you wanted them to, and you may have to add a little bit of paint and just go over that. And you can do that for as long as you like. As long as the paint is wet, you can sort of blend in more of the paint that you want. I want mine to look darker at the top and then get lighter and more bluish as it comes down to the horizon line. So I'm adding just a little bit of black, and I want to make sure that My night sky does that because I feel like the top is the darkest, and then as it comes to the horizon line, it just gets a little bit lighter. And also the black can just sort of take over. So if you don't want your entire night sky to be black and you want some blue in there, then you may have to go and add a little bit of blue to make sure it's just the right color. Okay, so I'm going to continue to blend that in, and just to recap, so far we have an 11 by 14 canvas panel. You could use any size you want. You could use stretch canvas if you want. We have our night sky, which is a mixture of black and blue that's been blended to softness. And we also have our snowy land at the bottom that is a mixture of white and blue. And again, you have complete creative control, and you can mix it whiter or bluer, whatever color you'd like. And here is my close-up so far. So if you want to let it dry at this point, you can, but if not, you can move right on into this next step. I'm going to take a little brush and make sure I have a brown color that is the color of a tree trunk. And I'm going to make a thin line straight down with a flat brush, and then I'm going to make a thicker line that goes upward, and that's going to be my trunk, the trunk of my Christmas tree. Okay, so here's a little close-up so you can see what that sort of looks like. And I know it's a little bit wonky, but that's what you want. Okay, so we're moving on. We're going to cover up most of this tree trunk with our tree, with our sort of pine needles or whatever. I have some green and a little bit of black and brown, and I'm going to use 3 different shades of green to fill in my tree. And the first one is going to be the darkest shade, and I'll explain why in just a second. And you will need a fan brush for this process. Just like one of those old Bob Ross videos, you're going to take the corner of your fan brush and sort of tap it until you like the shape of the branches that you are creating. And then you're just going to sort of fan it out and go a little wider and a little wider right down towards your horizon line. That's going to make a really nice tree. You'll notice I'm leaving a little bit of white space. I'm not filling the whole tree with my dark green color. I am just sort of selectively putting the darker color in the back, where later I'll go over it a little bit with some brighter green, and then that way you'll have some different shades. And I'll show you right here. I'm going to grab some regular green, just plain old green, and go over it so it looks a little bit brighter, and so it almost looks 3D. The darker branches, if you will, are in the background, and then as it gets brighter and more vibrant, those branches and those pine needles are closer to you in the painting. You're doing the same motion. You're taking the fan brush and just tapping it sort of on the corner, and then fanning it out and going left and right and filling in some of those white spaces. And I realize I still have some white spaces, but what I'm going to do next is mix my vibrant green with a little bit of yellow, and that's going to make just a little bit brighter green. You can see that there. And those are going to just add a little bit of highlights to the tree so that it's not just all one shade, one color. And again, we're just tapping the corner of the brush. We are tapping the fan brush right along, filling in the white spaces, but not covering the tree completely. And even if you have a few white spaces left at the end of this, I will show you how to cover them with little twinkle lights and little Christmas ornaments. And so by the end, you will not have any white spaces. But you do want to leave some of the trunk exposed. So you can see there how at the bottom, I have a little bit of my tree trunk that is exposed because I do want the viewer to see this picture and understand that, you know, it is a tree, and it is, you know, you can sort of see the whole 3D picture of it. And at any point, if you think you're finished, that's great. Just stand back and look at your tree and just sort of ask yourself, can I live with it like this or not? Because you don't want to add too much, but you don't want to leave it where later on you're saying, oh, you know, I wish I did this or that. Okay, so here's a little close-up of what my tree looks like now. And You can see the three-dimensional picture of that. After I filled in my tree, I did let it dry. You may not have to do that to move on to the next step, but I wanted to make sure that my tree was dry before I put on my string lights or my twinkle lights, because as you can see, I like to put my hand right there on it, right on my painting, and I didn't want to get the paint all over my hand and sort of smush the painting all around. I wanted to let my tree dry so I didn't mess it up. Now I'm just going to take, I have the back of a thin paintbrush. So when you have a thin paintbrush, you have a smaller end to it. You just flip it upside down, you dip that in some white paint, and you make little dots as you go along. And I realized that some of the craft stores have a tool for this, and it's just like a little ball at the end of it's like a little wooden handle, and then it has a little silver ball. But I believe that this end of the paintbrush does pretty much the same job. So I'm just sort of moving down the Christmas tree in a twinkle light way. You know, if you had walked around this tree with a string of lights, this is sort of how it would go. And so you want to just make those, I guess it just looks like a wave almost. So you make little waves of twinkle lights. And then what I'm going to do is go back over it, sort of right next to it with yellow. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with yellow. Okay, so I have my yellow and I have my paintbrush. I'm going to use the same one, so I'm just going to clean off the white, make sure that doesn't make a mess. And my yellow paint is a bit thick, so I mixed a little bit of white into it, and yeah, that's what you can see I'm doing there on the side. If it's too thick, it might make globby lights, and you don't want globby lights. You want to make sure that you have the right consistency of the paint. And so my theory is, if I make a little yellow dot with the end of the paintbrush, just like I did with the white, right next to the white light, then it will give it that bright look to it, or kind of like the twinkling look. Like, not all the lights are white, not all of them are yellow. You could certainly do this step with red lights or blue. I know that some people like to buy those multicolor ones, and so you could definitely do that. Or I remember when I was little, there were Christmas trees outside that had those bigger bulbs on them, and so if you want to be adventurous, you could paint like some bigger bulbs on the Christmas tree too, since it is outside. But for me, I really like the little twinkle lights that sort of make your eyes look all over and dance all over the tree. So I'm just going to continue to put a little bit of yellow, like a little yellow dot right next to the white dot. Okay, so as I finish that up, I want to just recap. At first we did our dark sky, and then we painted in our snow. We blended that together by making horizontal brush strokes, and we left a little triangle space in the middle for our tree. And we ended up going over the triangle space, like we sort of covered that up, so you can't see that we left that triangle in the middle. You want to make sure you cover those edges. Then we added our tree trunk. It was a thin line through the middle and a bigger line at the bottom to expose the trunk. And then we took our fan brush and we used 3 different values of green: a dark green, a vibrant green, and then a green mixed with some yellow. And we used the corner of our fan brush to make those pine needles and make that Christmas tree shape. And now we have gone over the whole tree. Here's a close-up for you, with the back of the paintbrush to make little twinkle lights. We went over with white, and then I went back with yellow and just put a little dot right next to our white dot. All right, for our next step, and this could be your last step, we're going to make some ornaments. And now I've decided that I want my ornaments to be red, and if you want yours to be green or blue or purple or silver or whatever color you want, then that's what you want to do, is get your favorite color. And for me, I mixed a little bit of red with some black, and then I found my 1-inch brush. It's actually a Bob Ross brush, but it has a big circle at the bottom. So my really thin brush had a very thin point, and that was good for the lights, but my thicker brush has a thicker circle at the bottom. So I'm just going to dip that in the red and black color paint and then swirl it around to make a big circle, make a big ornament on my Christmas tree. And of course, you have creative control. You could make a bunch of different color ornaments, or you could make just a few. You could stick to one like I have. You could make a bunch of little ones. You could make some really big ones. Whatever you want to do is fine. But the first step is to make a circle out of sort of a darker value of what you really want, because then we're going to lay over some vibrant color and a little bit of white for a shine. So I'll show you that in just one moment. I want to make sure I have just the right amount of ornaments on my tree. And there's a little close-up for you of my lights and the first step of my ornaments. Okay, the next thing I want to do is make my ornaments look 3D. So I'm going to add some vibrant red on top of the dark red circle. And I'm just going to make a little half circle or a C shape on each one to make it sort of look like round, and like the lighter part is toward you and the darker part is going toward the back of the ornament. So we have to go over each one very carefully, put a little, just a little 1/2. And the other thing is, you're definitely going to want to make sure, whether you're using blue or purple or red or whatever, that you put the vibrant color on the same side of each circle. If it's all over the place, then it kind of looks like the light is coming from all directions. And somewhere in your mind, you have to imagine that like the moon is somewhere in your painting and that it's shining light down on this tree. So for me, my light is on the left, and so all my little red spots are going to be on the left, and then even on the bottom a little bit. And that's going to make them look 3D. And there's a little close-up for you. Then the last thing I want to do is add a little bit of white for a little bit of shine. I'll show you that just one sec. All right, last but not least, we're going to finish up our ornaments by putting a little bit of white on the top left corner, so to speak, of each one. I'm going to use the same brush that I used for the red. It's my liner brush. There we go. I'm just putting a little white on each one in sort of the exact same place, so it looks like the light is hitting the tree from the sky on the left-hand side here. You're going to want to just put those on there, and it makes it look 3D and shiny. And so if you want, you can add some stars in your night sky when you're done, or a little star on top of your tree. But for me, this is going to be the last step here, just making it all shiny and pretty. All right, well, if you have any questions at all for me, please leave it in the comments and I'll make sure to answer you. I just have a couple more shiny white spots to put on my ornaments here, and that'll be that. One more close-up, and I just want to say thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, bye. Merry Christmas.